The show has begun. This is Eddie and Sally in your ears right now, and we're so grateful that you've pushed play today. First and foremost, well done at starting your day and getting after it. If you are out running right now, if you're in the gym, we applaud you. If you're driving to work or maybe you're driving home from work, we are so grateful to join you right now. Big shout out to our kiddos that are watching here. We know a lot of the kids watch for the first few minutes. So Eddie and Sally are rooting for you today. We hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, whether you are tackling a game this weekend, if you're in sports or you're studying for a test, or you're training for a new exciting goal. Know that we are always cheering for you. Eddie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Yeah?
Doing well. Yep.
You doing good because I made you a nice big bowl of oats?
That's part of it.
It is. Eddie and I started doing this. I just get these at Trader Joe's. It's gluten-free organic rolled oats, but they're made with a blend of quinoa, chia seeds, ground flax seeds. And, I made them with a pound of bacon. So the last 2 days,
so good.
I made a big pot of oatmeal. We blend in a little bit of real butter, a little bit of brown sugar. And then I make a pan of bacon on the side. Eddie makes some pour-over coffee. It's been
delicious.
It's been nice. I'm still smelling that bacon right now. That's always one of my favorite things, early morning long runs on the weekend. Sometimes I love just like running through new neighborhoods, but when you smell through other people's kitchen window, bacon or like sausage coming through while you're running, you're just like, oh, I can't wait to eat after I'm done running.
There's nothing like a good pancake smell too.
Oh my gosh, pancakes.
Early morning. Oh.
That's a good pre-run. If you're going on a long run, pancakes are great. I was telling Eddie though, because I got him to eat some oatmeal before the Surf City half marathon that he did this past weekend, which we'll dive into a little bit later on. But you did eat some oatmeal, and one of the things I said is it's a great slow burning fuel. So if you're gearing up for a run or a workout that's 90 minutes or longer for a race, it's great. It also sits in your belly pretty well. How did it do for you?
It did well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have any issues.
I know for me, that's something that whenever I've been getting blood tests since 2015, is a way to like stay on top of my health, which there's always stuff that I have to pay attention to.
Yeah.
One of them is, it's cool. You get these blood tests. We just did Function Health last month and this month. So I did a couple blood tests with them. And I love it because it gives me feedback on what I specifically need to eat in order to improve my biomarkers, or stop eating this so that you can improve your biomarkers, which, that isn't always fun, especially when they say you can't have donuts. I'm just like, come on. But oatmeal always pops up as this needs to be in your diet. So yeah, this one's good. I really like this with the mix of grains, and I like to blend it in with some frozen berries. So when the oatmeal's really hot, I just throw in a bunch of mixed berries into there, and it's just like this good big mush of good carbs and good burning fuel.
And I don't like that. I'm not a big fan of the frozen berries in mine. I like it just hot with sugar and I stay away from the berries.
Yeah, Eddie
I know
says
I probably
no
should
every
eat
time.
them, but I'll have my berries and like yogurt or something later, not in my oatmeal.
Ed, you got out this morning. Our gym offers like a recovery kind of studio.
Yeah.
And over the weekend, actually it was after you ran your half marathon. It's always my goal every year that when you do the half marathon, I always have to run more miles than you. So I did. Did you know this?
No, I didn't.
I did this last year too.
Please tell me more. Tell me more.
So I think I put in like 7 miles during your marathon, just running around cheering. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to go do like, 7.5, 8 more miles. And so I went to the gym. But the gym has a recovery studio, and it's an upgrade. You have to add it onto the membership. But it's awesome. It has like infrared light rooms. It has cryotherapy, like the full body step-in room, but then it also has localized cryotherapy, so you can sit in a chair and just like put cryotherapy with like this wand, like on your knee. They have cryotherapy beds, which it was my first time trying that, but you lay in this super comfortable bed and you can regulate where you want heat and then where you want cold. And then it has like these leg compressions. And then there's all these chairs where you can do Normatec boots. I mean, it's like pretty cool. So I was finishing my miles, and I know that in the past year, back hasn't been feeling great all the time. And I thought, you know what? I think it's time to upgrade Eddie's membership to get these recovery.
Eddie's falling apart, so how can we put him back together?
Yeah, we are not in our 20s and 30s anymore. And I was like, what can I do to make him become more consistent in just like recovery therapies and knowing you for as long as I do. I know that's having to go somewhere else and book an appointment and drive somewhere else to get recovery
It's not happening.
Is difficult.
Not happening.
But what I love is that our gym offers it. And so you're already there.
Yeah.
And they have a huge sauna, which I know you love going in too. So anyway, I ran my miles on Sunday after Eddie did the half marathon. And then I came home and I was like, guess what I got you? Tomorrow morning, this thing opens up at 5 a.m. It's open like from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single day. You can go and get some good therapies that are going to help you recover, make your body feel a little bit better. And you've done that the last 2 days.
Yeah.
Tell us what you've been doing. How has it been?
So yesterday I did the lay down bed thing where they compress your calves, and that felt awesome. And then did the cold lower half.
So that was the cryo bed.
The cryo bed,
But that one is like out in the open. You're not like in a chamber.
Correct. Yeah. And so I sat in there for 15 minutes. And that was great. And then today I did the full submerged
the walk-in
chamber cryotherapy. And I've never done that before.
What did that feel like for you?
I hate being cold, so I was
Have you never done it at O2 Health Lab?
I've never done it in my life.
Oh my gosh, I've taken so many people to do it and you haven't done it?
Nope. That was my first time today. So I did 2 minutes and it wasn't as bad as I thought. It actually did feel, afterwards, it felt pretty good.
What was the temperature? Do you know?
I don't remember. She did tell me that, I don't know all the science and stuff behind it, but she said when your temperature drops like 20 degrees, because she took my temperature before and then after, and she said when your temperature drops 20 to 30 or something like that, that range is like the best in terms of therapy. So, but mine only dropped like 17, she said, because I wasn't in there long enough or something like that. But I just wanted to get my feet wet in a sense. So, and I did.
You definitely don't want your feet wet when you're in there.
Well, I don't. I did, but I didn't want to get my feet wet in there.
Because that would be really
then I'd
painful.
be pulled out instead of walking out.
Now, for people that have never tried cryotherapy, or you're just brand new to even hearing about it, which I think it's been around long enough, there's always conflicting views. Like some people think it's great. Others are like, oh, it's all in your head, It is something that I've personally started using like almost 10 years ago. And I genuinely did not feel the effects of it until I was using it consistently. And then it was like, whoa, like this is impacting me. I am able to recover faster and just... I just feel better. I do think it's, I am specific about when I use it though. So if I go and do like a hard tempo run, like I kind of want that breakdown. And so I won't go do cryotherapy right away. I might do it the next day or maybe 2 days later. If there is like inflammation, like maybe in the knee or the ankle, or you just feel like a tightness somewhere, then it's like, oh, I'm going to go and see if I can tackle this. I think it's great for people recovering from injuries. If you've been in an accident, in a car accident or a bike accident, it just or surgery, it just kind of helps subdue the overall inflammation. I think it's great for post race. But I just looked up while you were talking, the temperature used in cryotherapy, there is a range. So typically it ranges from negative 184 Fahrenheit to negative 302 Fahrenheit, which translate for everyone that uses the right metrics in the world, negative 120 Celsius to negative 190 Celsius. So some cryotherapy chambers may reach even lower temperatures up to negative 200 Celsius, which is negative 310 Fahrenheit. So but you only typically need to stay in there for 2.5 to 3.5 minutes. You don't have to. It's very different from. It feels different from like cold plunge. Have you done cold plunge?
No.
You tried that yet, or cold showers?
Yeah, but I stay away from them because I don't like cold. So
yeah.
So maybe I didn't get any actual therapy today. I was only there for 2 minutes and it wasn't super cold.
Well, I think because you're able to go whenever you have a gym pass. It's just unlimited. You're able to kind of take your time and ease into it. Which when I first started, that's what I did too. I did it at a not as cold temperature, started at 2 minutes and then 2.5 minutes and then 3 minutes. But I don't think there's ever been a time that I've done it where I liked it. I really don't like doing it, but I really believe in the benefits. I always feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
You kind of get a little high off of it too, as far as like your brain feels like clear and you have good energy and it's a good rush.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm glad that you tried that. So
Yep.
you
Check
tried
that
the
off the
step-in
list.
chamber, the cryo bed.
Yeah, those are the two.
You didn't try any of the boots yet.
No, not there.
Boots.
Nope. That's next.
Okay.
That is next. But I'm looking forward to jumping into the cryo again because it's a pretty cool experience. It wasn't as bad as I thought. So yeah,
nice.
I'm gonna go back. So
I have some good news to share with our listeners. I thought this would just be a fun story to share. With those running along and driving along. Sometimes we just need a good story.
Let's hear a good story, Sal.
This one was published back in December 9th, 2024. So just,
not too long ago.
2 months ago. But the headline just caught my attention because I'm thinking, what are the chances of this? Listen to this headline. Bakery owner discovers her longtime customer is her biological son.
What?
So this woman that owns this bakery, and it's like what is it called? They have the name of it. Oh yeah, it's called Give Me Some Sugar Bakery, and it's in Chicago. And this customer of hers that came in all the time, she later found out is her son. So I'm just going to read it really quick because it's such a great story, and I know it's going to bring a smile to faces. But at Give Me Some Sugar Bakery, recently hired employee Hunter is particularly proud of his pound cake. He had always loved stopping in for a sweet treat or breakfast at the cafe, particularly because of the service from the baker behind the counter. Her name was Lenore Lindsay, and though she didn't know Varmar's name, she knew him as a valuable customer. How wild is this? Just think about this for a minute.
I'm picturing it.
Picture your mom owning a bakery.
Yeah, I'm trying.
And you're going in all the time for those blueberry muffins, Eddie. I know how much you like blueberry muffins or coffee cake. Those are Ed's top 2 if he's going to go into a bakery. Okay, cinnamon rolls right there too. So you're going in, and maybe it's your weekly Saturday stop after you've finished your long run, and you're like, I'm going to go get myself a blueberry muffin and a coffee, and so you always just see this woman every time who's kind to you. You have good conversation, you say what's up, and it's your favorite bakery. So that's the situation here. Lenore Lindsay and Hunter have these interactions. Okay, so that's how they know each other. Just this great customer. But the relationship went far deeper than that, though neither knew it. They were mother and son. Lindsay gave up her newborn son for adoption when she gave birth to Varmar at just 17 years old. Varmar, for his part, didn't know he was adopted until he was 34.
Oh, wow.
After finding out, he gradually became interested in finding out who his birth mother was, and he submitted DNA for a test. One day, he received a strange call. And in his words, he said, I was on the phone talking to my friend when a call came through from the bakery, said Varmar to the Washington Post. I was like, why is Give Me Some Sugar calling me? Even though he was told to expect a call from his biological mother, he didn't suspect even for a moment any connection between it and the bakery. The Post heard from Lindsay, who said if she had seen Varmar's photo, the shock would have been immediate. Instead, with only a name, the call began with a slow awkwardness that eventually shattered with loud enthusiasm when the lost family members connected the dots. When I knew who he was, we just started screaming on the phone, Lindsay said. We were beside ourselves, with Hunter adding, it was just so unbelievable. When I called him, that connection was so immediate, I can't even explain it. It was just like everything in my heart just broke open, she said. After a bout of health issues, Varmar started working at the bakery while Lindsay recovered, having no prior baking experience. And I have some pictures for this that I'm going to give you from this article so you can see this. But he said, it's been a great experience. It further strengthens my faith. You can't make up for time and days gone by. What you can do is properly utilize the time that you have. Isn't that a cool quote?
That is cool.
That is really cool. Along with Lindsay, Varmar got to meet a long-lost sister and an extended family to boot, incorporating his own 4 children into a new network of sweet, sweet affection.
What are the chances?
What are the chances? Isn't that a wild story? I was like, oh my gosh, cool, I totally have to share this one. That's just that's our good news for today, you guys. It's yeah. I feel like there's always good all around us. We just got to look for it. And in this case, it's just how it just kept unfolding was really cool. The fact that he now works there,
that's super cool.
That is really sweet.
Yeah, I like that. Thanks for sharing, Sal.
Yeah,
brought a smile to my face.
Good.
Loved it. All right, I think it is time, Sal, to move on to some reviews.
Okay.
And when I say reviews, I mean one review. Okay.
Are you only choosing one because I see that the title of our episode today is Running a Race Untrained, which this is a great topic. So, yeah, you go ahead and hit your one review.
My one review is
save us some time
from Hannah on the Apple podcast. Hannah says, I literally love your podcast so much. I used to be a high school runner, but now have seemed to lose consistency in training. I've been listening to your podcast since the beginning, but recently it has been instrumental in giving me the motivation I need to simply show up. So thank you. Y'all are the best.
Wonderful. Thank you, Hannah, so much for writing in. It's great to hear from you, and keep going.
Hannah, you're the best for saying that, okay? So back at you. All right, moving on. Let's highlight some amazing people and some amazing things that they've been doing in the community that listens to the Choose Strong podcast. And, before we do that, Sal, we have to say thank you to all the people that listen to this podcast, because they have listened to it over 2 million times now. Mm. That is pretty awesome, pretty exciting. So thank you to all you loyal and first-time listeners, because we don't take that lightly, that you would actually put us in your ears or through the stereo for that many times. So
yeah, we do.
Thank you.
We do appreciate it. We I think we hit over 2 million downloads last year. It was around November, December, and yeah, it was. We feel very encouraged. We know that the community is growing. I mean, we have over 20,000 consistent subscribers just to the podcast, and the community in Facebook and Strava is growing. And I'll tell you what, when I was out at a Surf City half marathon today, or this past weekend, it showed me how incredible the community is. I think I lost count of how many selfies that I took with people as they ran by, which was super fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Several people that were pointing to their their earphones saying, I'm listening to the episode with Max right now. And all the Choose Strong hats. It was just, it was a really fun weekend, being reminded of this incredible community that's so supportive, that shows up for each other, that spreads just a lot of good. I think a lot of, our motto is strong mind, strong body, strong love. And I know that's something that, I always want to fill my life with. And I've been very encouraged since we started this podcast, just by the community. And so, I love that you share other people's stories, because I'm inspired by them, and it just reminds me of what everyone else is working through. So, thank you, listeners, so much for your support. Eddie and I have been working behind the scenes at doing different things to improve our podcast. We'll be adding more guests this year. We're working with a team right now on logo and a little bit of new branding. But it just really means a lot to us because we're doing what we love for sure. But I think ultimately our hope is just that we can, encourage a really strong community to choose strong in every area of their lives. So if you have a moment at the end of this podcast, or you can even pause right now and do it right now, go ahead and give us a rating and review. It means a lot to us, and it really helps our podcast. In fact, Eddie, I think that's one of the reasons why we got selected to be a part of the premium group. A very select group gets to do Spotify video. And I give all 100% credit to our listeners for that, who have given us reviews and ratings. And so, we were put into a little VIP group, and Spotify reached out to us and said, not everyone gets to do this, but we want to support you and your podcast. They've given us studio access and production access. I mean, it's been a huge blessing. And, and just shooting that back to you, Ed, I know you've worked very, very hard on the podcast. So thank you.
Oh, man. Thank you, Sal. That's all I got to tell.
All right, let's
everybody.
go on to our reviews and highlights.
So the first one
listeners.
I have is Alyssa from Instagram. Alyssa said, Sally and Eddie, I'm writing to send the biggest thank you and virtual hug your way. This year I ran my first marathon, the Marine Corps Marathon in DC, and I could not have done it without y'all. By mile 22, I was feeling great, past people saying in my head, pass gap Barry. The training effort did not come out with long hours of running and time spent on the trail. While I'm not the fastest runner out there, I always have a goal to finish upright. Making it through my long runs would not have been possible without your podcast in my ear. Your contagious laughter and unwavering positivity always kept me moving. A marathon is something I said I would never do, but I have now learned to never say never. I now say not at this time. Goals can be scary, but it would be worse to never try. I can say now that I'm a marathoner working to one day finish a full Ironman. Thank you, Sally and Eddie, for all that you do to keep us moving. To all the slower runners out there, and remember, forward is a pace.
I love that.
Alyssa.
Wonderful. Thank you,
big props
Alyssa.
to you. Marine Corps Marathon. Sally, you did that one in 2005, 6. Yes. See? I remember.
Because Mackenzie was a baby.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right. So thanks, Alyssa, for writing that. We appreciate that one. The next one is from the Choose Strong Strava group. And this is from Brittany Thomas. And she just said, I just got back from pass gapping and burying people for 36 miles at Disneyland. And she, along with her family, have the 3D glasses on, and they got some big smiles on. So Brittany Thomas, pass gap and burying with her family at Disneyland. Boom.
So awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to flash this picture up there. That's a pretty sweet picture with the whole fam doing the glasses picture. I love it.
That's so cool.
See,
Thank
you guys can pass gap and bury in all areas of life. Even at Disneyland.
Oh, TSA, when you get off the plane, international travel.
Yep.
I will pass gap in as many people as I can.
Even
those
your
lines
family
are so long.
Yeah, we know, Sal. We know.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Well done, Brittany. Thanks for sharing that. Last one, we have Alex from the Facebook group. Earned the title Ultra Marathoner. Took the leap from marathon straight to the 100-mile. It's truly mental at the end to push through the pain and endure the urge to stop at the valleys because you can't see the peaks, but you will. A few others out there had some yellow hat with the Choose Strong logo. Thanks for the info, McCrae family. And he is there in front of the Across the Years finish line holding up his belt buckle. So, Alex, well done to you, my friend. And getting that buckle went from the marathon to the 100-miler.
Amazing.
Just a big jump right there.
Huge congrats.
Big jump.
That's a massive feat to accomplish. And I really hope that that has instilled just a greater confidence and belief of what's ahead. That's
Yeah.
what's exciting. You do stuff like that, and you can tell yourself there's more good and great things ahead.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
man, marathon to 100 is those are two completely different races. That's like doing the 100-meter sprint and then doing the 3,200-meter on the track. I mean, it's just
Very different.
very different.
Very
So
different.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Well done, Alex. Props to you, buddy. And thanks for sharing that.
This episode is brought to you by iRestore Illumina Face Mask. This is a great gift for yourself with the skincare glow up you actually deserve. So this just isn't a face mask. It's 360 medical grade LEDs of pure magic, which is double most other brands. So it hits your skin with red, infrared, and blue light all at once, tackling wrinkles, acne, and inflammation. Now, what I really love about this face mask is that I do not have to lay down to get the treatment, and it's only like 10-15 minutes. I can strap it on at night during my night routine, and I can lay out my clothes for the next day, or I can do laundry. It's very comfortable, and when it comes down to it, it pays for itself very fast because I see these red light facials. I'm starting to see those a lot pop up around town, and they can get pretty pricey. So I'm really excited about this offer that I get to give to you, my listeners. It is for $205 off the Illumina face mask if you use code Sally at irestorelaser.com. That's $205 off the Illumina face mask with code SALLY at irestorelaser.com. And I would love for you to support our show and tell them that we sent you. Unlock your best skin with iRestore.
All right, Sal, I think we should just move directly into our next segment, which is one of my favorites. And we've only started it about once or twice. This is like the second time. And it is, as some of you might already know, it's the Sally Says segment. And the reason I implemented the Sally Says segment is because we get a lot of questions for Sally and what she would recommend or what she would do in situations, whether it have to do with training or racing or parenting or whatever it might be. And so, Sally, we got a little section here for you. Sally Says. So the first one I have for you today, I actually saw this on Facebook, but it's one that comes up quite a bit. It says, I have started your 50K program in your app, and I got sick last week and I missed a long run and I missed some strength workouts because of it. Do I start that week over or do I just skip it?
Great question. And I think there's several different ways that we can answer this. As a coach, one thing that I always consider with athletes that are coming back from getting sick is really what their beginning fitness was when they started the program. Also, what kind of athlete they are. So if they're like a seasoned athlete that has been training consistently for a while and they already have fitness and then they're starting a program, that's going to be a different protocol than an athlete that is, brand new to running. Uh, an athlete that maybe is still, working on base fitness while they're building into the program. So there's a couple ways to approach this. Obviously, I always like to have as much information as possible, but this is just a general ask, and so I will answer this in a very general way, and then give just a couple different variations to it. So the type of sickness you had. So was that sickness, did that go into your lungs? So bronchitis is very different from a head cold. And if you don't recover well from bronchitis or you don't allow yourself good recovery from that, it can come back. It can come back in full force. So that's really important to consider. So if it's someone like that who is just coming back from bronchitis, I would not continue to progress them in the program. I would take them back to that week and have them redo the week. And again, I'm thinking that this athlete already has consistent fitness.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it's somebody that is, hasn't really been that consistent in the program. So let's say week by week, there's always kind of like a rework of the workouts. They're missing workouts. There's maybe just high life stress. Many times in that instance, and then the person gets sick and they're out for like a week, 10 days or whatever. Sometimes I'll take them back 2 weeks because what I see is as being the most important part of your training is the base training because that is where you're building your aerobic fitness. That's where you're building strength. That is the biggest base of the entire program. So when I think of a training program, it's like a pyramid, and the bottom of the pyramid is the biggest slab. And the stronger and more solid that is, the more that you're going to be able to endure, the more intensity that you can give. You're just going to be overall fitter and able to handle more. And so I think looking at where you are in the program. So are you 2 weeks into the program? Are you 12 weeks into the program? That plays a part too. So first you need to go and consider, what is your fitness right now? Are you still struggling to get fit? Are you at the beginning of the program? If so, you have time to still go back a week, start there, and then continue forward. I think when we are considering a race, it's, let's say, like it's 7, 8 weeks away, and you start to really feel that. You're like, oh my gosh, I have like genuinely 6 weeks of hard training left. And then it's like taper time, and then it's race week. And so it's easy to feel a little overwhelmed and stressed out. And so that's also where we make the most mistakes. We start to cram and pile. We kind of let go of like proper, good, wholesome recovery, and we're just trying to get in like the hard workouts in there. We get sick in the middle of that. It's like go, 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 push, push, push. What that can do to our system and what we will pay for it later on is not good. It's much better to arrive at the start line of a race a little bit undertrained as opposed to overtrained and kind of stretched thin because you're trying to come back from an injury too fast. You're trying to come back from an illness too fast. And I always like to remind athletes too, this is the luck of the draw for every athlete. It doesn't matter if you're an Olympian or you're a brand new athlete. One of the greatest gambles that we're all playing is just trying to get the start line healthy. And, we see this every year at the Olympics, and we hear those conversations. It's just, man, the odds of arriving not only at peak fitness, but with absolutely no problems at all with joints, ligaments, muscle. I mean, it's slim.
Pretty rare.
So often we hear of athletes competing, it isn't only until after their race that they've finished, or once they've gone home, they're like, oh yeah, I like part of my hamstring was torn, or like I had just recovered from bronchitis like 2 days out. And we're like, what?
Yeah.
So it's very common. And I hope that this actually brings a little bit of comfort to people that are working through injuries and illness. You're not alone in that. It doesn't mean that you are weak or you're not equipped, or that, it's not possible for you to complete a training program. But you should know that it is very, very common to be hit with some of these challenges. High stress, chance of injury, and illness, it's going to be common in a 3, 4, 5. I mean, the longer your training program, there is a likelihood of that. And so I'm now just going to share what I do personally, and I've done for years. There's 2 things I do. The first thing is I do that assessment. Okay, and I'm just going to talk about being sick, not being injured.
Yeah.
And I don't really have a strong history of being sick. From the time I was little, I've pretty much had a pretty strong immune system. But I will say that when I was a new mom, and when the kids started like going to preschool and stuff, I felt like I was so much more susceptible to strep throat and bronchitis. I did get that, I want to say, at the beginning of every year for like 4 years straight. It was really odd. And so my rule was this, like, if the illness was not in my lungs, so if it was just a head cold, I would still work out. I would still do all my workouts for the week. I would still get out and do something every day, but I would take away all intensity. This then allowed me, I would train at a low heart rate. Any weightlifting I would do too, it was more body weight stuff. So I was doing like Pilates and just functional training. I would do mobility and just make sure that my body felt good. And then I also increased sleep as best I could. And, as a young mom, that isn't easy, but I didn't always sleep with my kids during nap times. But in that case, I would make sure I would go down for a nap when they would. I try to get a little bit extra sleep at night if possible. I would also increase by a lot my intake of water, green juice, vegetables, all fresh fruits and vegetables. I mean, try to get any inflammation down that I possibly could and flush out my system. Those things have always worked really well for me. Now, if it was a harder hitting illness, so, really bad flu, pneumonia, bronchitis, throat, people with ear infections, all that stuff. That stuff makes you feel uncomfortable. It makes it hard to sleep. Your body feels run down. You feel tired day in and day out. You have to take care of yourself. And when you come back from recovering from that, you actually have to ease into your training. So I always say the first 3 days, even if you're like, dude, I feel good, still take it easy for the first 2 to 3 days, actually, and keep your training at a low heart rate. Because the thing is, there's so much that you can do in your training to keep yourself fit. And you want to look at your training program holistically. I mean, this is part of the 50K program that is in my app. It really tackles strength and running, and there's cross training and all of that. You have the ability to switch workouts around and really make the plan work for you. And so that's something that I encourage. So if you're looking at a program, and most good programs are going to have like 2 days of intensity, maybe 3 at the most, but typically it's 2 days of like work, and then everything else around that should be supporting it. That's where you're recovering. That's where you're taking the intensity down. It's where you're keeping your body from getting injured and overtrained and sick and tired too much. And so if when you come back into that next week of training, what you should do is rearrange the workouts so that your first 2 to 3 workouts, they're easy, you're easing back into it, you're checking with yourself, you're paying good attention to your nutrition and to your sleep and your hydration. All of that will help you return in a stronger way to training. So you need to put yourself into one of two categories. So I have been consistently fit when I started this program, and I actually am fit. I had to take, 7 to 10 days off, but your fitness isn't like completely disappeared if you are fit and it's 7, 10 days. You actually, because you are consistently fit, you'll regain the fitness faster. You'll lose a little bit of fitness, but you will regain it quickly and you'll build back up again. And that is the cycle for a lot of us. If you put yourself into the category as I was trying to build fitness, the base training is still something that I want to do. Have some grace on yourself and go back 1 week. You might even need to go back 2 weeks and build from there. It's okay if you can't get through every single week of a training program. The goal is to get through strong. The goal is to get to that start line feeling refreshed and injury free. And so do what you can in order to fulfill that.
Okay, so if I was doing that and I got sick, and I'm that guy that's like, okay, I got it planned out perfectly. This is the day that I'm doing the race, and I missed a week or two, let's say 16 weeks prior, 12 weeks prior, and I go, okay, I need to start back over on those 2 weeks because I need to, and I need to get that fitness. So what do I do if I'm trying to like target it like right on that date?
Mm-hmm.
Do I skip 2 weeks so I can make sure I have that taper and that race week?
Mm-hmm.
Or like, does that make sense?
Yeah. No matter. So what you would do is typically a lot of good race programs, they are programmed starting from the race and you work backward.
Mm-hmm.
So you always want to ensure that you have a good taper, and everyone is different with their needs in a taper. Again, more seasoned athletes, their taper to newbie runners, it probably looks like a workout week to them. So everyone is different in what they need. But I think any good taper, it's going to look anywhere between 7 and 12 days. And it isn't so much that a taper is, oh, you're not training anymore. It's just you're taking down the intensity and the duration. Well, you're taking down the duration, but you keep intensity in there, and it stays in there, but just at much shorter bouts. So you want to, we call it sharpening. Typically, right before you race, everything you're doing is to sharpen you and to make sure that that leg turnover is good and you have high energy. And some of those sharpening workouts, they just like boost your confidence. It's really good for you mentally to know, like, yes, I can hit that pace. However, it is more important that you get to the start line fully rested and ready to give that maximum energy, because you can't look at a whole entire training plan and think that because you were sick for 5 to 7 days that all that work means nothing. It's not true. So you might need to take a couple steps back from where you were in order to move forward. So like in the case that you are talking about right now, um, one of the things that you can do is eliminate, like pick and choose like 1 or 2 workouts that you actually do want to hit, and make sure that all the workouts around that, like it's just good aerobic work. Um, and then, go and try to hit like that long run. Cause I feel like we'll use the half marathon as an example. If someone has, their longest run was like 5 miles, and, um, they need to just go that distance in order to boost that confidence or to mentally attach to it. I think sometimes that's where we start to put ourselves in danger of injury if we just force it when our body isn't ready. But I do understand the mental side of it too, because endurance, as we know, the further the distance, that's really what we're relying on. So in that case, I have, athletes that have come back from injury or when they are sick. I've said, okay, you actually aren't going to pick up the program where it is, but I actually do just want you to hit the long run. So we're going to do like some pretty easy work this whole week. But this weekend, I do want you to hit that 10 miler, but it's very specific how I have them run the 10 miler. And I'll say something like, you're actually going to do a walk run the entire time, but I need you to hit that mileage. So I take the intensity out of the workout, as far as like, sometimes for long runs, it is good to do like a long run workout where there's like a tempo run inside of it, or there's surges, or, it's like a 3-mile fast finish or something like that. So if someone's training plan has kind of been all over the place and, because of injury, they haven't been able to hit everything, I then try to boost the confidence of the athlete by giving them milestones that I know that they can hit, so that when they do get to the start line, they're like, yeah, I probably didn't run that 10 miler as fast as I wanted to, but I did do it. I did go the distance. And so that's when I start to, and I think that anyone listening, you can do this. What do you need to do in order to hit that mileage? What do you need to do in order to get to the finish line? You can take that and apply it to your training. If you do feel kind of buckled by time or an injury or being sick, not everyone has the luxury of just like, I'll just go sign up for another race. No, there's a lot of people listening. It's like they get like 2 weekends a year that work because of family commitments and work and taking care of the family. I mean, and when that doesn't work, it's a huge stress. It was money that was invested, it was time that was invested. That was the only time that they could do it. And so that's really who I'm speaking to right now. People that are able to move to another race or elongate the training plan so that, do the other race, it's 4 weeks later. I mean, that's the easiest solution in all of this.
Yeah.
So if you were battling something for 2 weeks and you had shin splints for 2 weeks, you know what? It might be better that you just, we step back on the training plan for 3 or 4 weeks. We choose another race. We kind of massage, just the whole plan and the structure. But I really am speaking to, a vast majority of people. They sign up for a couple races a year. The training doesn't go as planned. They get sick. And these are some of the things that you can do in order to really keep training. So much of your restart when you're coming back from sickness has to do with the intensity that you give. And I think this is difficult sometimes for athletes because, and I need to make it very clear, giving your best isn't always directly referring to intensity. And I think that's what we think in our head is just like, go hard, go home, like, like 10 out
Yeah.
of 10 effort, red line, like hill sprints 100
Yeah.
times. It's okay. That's intensity.
Mhm.
And that sometimes giving your best is showing up and doing what you can so that you can show up the next day and the next day and the next day. Giving your best is being consistent. And so we don't wanna confuse that with, "Oh, giving my best means that I'm operating at anaerobic VO2 max every single time." Um, and I think too, whether you have downloaded a program off online or even if you are being coached by if you have a customized plan because you have a personal coach, that's why it's so powerful having a personal coach. You sit down and you have these conversations and you ask questions. "Would it be better for me, coach, to, only focus on hitting the long run this week, and then everything I do this week is kinda in support of me hitting that long run?" I've done that so many times. You come back from being sick, "Hey, this Monday through Friday, everything that we're doing in training is going to be in support to strengthen you for that long run." And then even then, we kinda play around with the long run. Like, "Let's see how you feel, like, running at marathon pace for 3 miles in there. If that completely crushes you, I want you to walk for a mile, and then you're gonna jog, nice and easy, and then try another mile at marathon pace, like, see how you feel." I think teaching athletes to learn to read and listen to their body, is invaluable because it's no one can feel what you feel, and, I think we can all agree, there's times in our life that we actually question ourselves, like, "Am I making excuses?" Like, "Am I really capable of this?" I mean, it's, so we have to kind of own how we're feeling. We need to be honest with the kind of sickness that we have. Um Being strong and consistent doesn't mean that you ignore when you are genuinely really sick, and, I can confess that I used to believe that. I remember the first time I did Leona Divide 50, I had bronchitis, sinusitis, and strep throat, and an ear infection, and I was like, "I'm gonna push through this." I mean, I walked, like, the last 16 miles of that race completely dizzy and was sick for weeks after. And in my mind, I was just like, yeah, but I could, my muscles were fine. My bones were fine. I should be able to push through this. That wasn't smart.
Mm-mm.
I should have dropped out. I shouldn't even gone to the start line. So I think that, the lessons that I have learned over the years in racing and just being an athlete, and then of course even greater being a coach to so many athletes and being able to interact with them, I've learned that over and over one of the greatest things we can do is learn to listen to our bodies. But I'm going to take that a step further and be honest with ourselves.
Mm.
So, what is going to set you up for the best success in completing a program, and what is going to help you hit key workouts in an entire race plan? And your key workouts are always going to be your weekend long run, and then whatever intense speed or structured run workout during the week. So that's really what you're looking at. That's what gives you constant feedback. So, yeah, in your case, let's say you had 3 weeks until the race. I would just say, "Hey, let's try to get in 3 good workouts then." And everything else is just about, like, supporting your fitness
Mm-hmm.
and supporting your health and making sure that you're feeling good. But you hitting, like, a couple target workouts, it's gonna give you confidence and kind of also help you shape your goal for race day. I think that's something that we forget is if you are getting sick or injured really close to the race, you need to immediately take a look at your goals so that you don't mentally cave in the race or even the week before the race, and start beating yourself up or forcing yourself to do something that your body is not ready to do yet. So, yeah, hit those key workouts, restructure and modify where needed, and then make sure that you approach the program as I'm consistently fit and I feel good, or no, I'm still, I'm slowly easing back from this illness and I'm still trying to build fitness.
Okay, that was a thorough answer. So much appreciated. Sally says, I got another one though for you. It is Super Bowl week, Sal.
Oh,
It is
okay.
Super Bowl week, and
Here we
who do you
go.
think's gonna win? Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? Let's hear it. Let's hear it from Sally Says
Well,
right
I mean,
here.
we got the Chiefs and the Eagles.
Okay, well, I'm actually impressed that you know who's in the Super Bowl.
Okay, I do
So
live with you and Isaiah. I don't think there's ever a
we
day
don't
that
know if
goes
you're
by
listening.
that 90% of the conversation is them talking about either the NFL or the NBA, uh,
Hey, we don't know if
who's
you're listening or
glazing
not.
Patrick Mahomes, and
Okay.
we're talking at what 120 odds that the Chiefs are going to win. I don't think there is any time this season that when the Chiefs were favored to win that they lost. They're like 14-0. And if we want to maybe lean into the betting and what's going on in Vegas, my thought is that we're all thinking that the Chiefs are going to win because oh yeah, we'd love to see that three-peat. But maybe it's going to be like some last minute touchdown, some field goal. The Eagles will win, and suddenly all these people are going to make a lot of money. So I don't know.
Look at
I don't know
you.
if there's a
Look
lot
at
of
you.
goodness in how these games are orchestrated or refereed, but there is a lot of money in it. And I would have much rather loved to see maybe another team in the Super Bowl this year, but no one's ever had a three-peat. I mean, it would
It's
be a,
true.
a dream come true. It'd be history in the making. We get to witness that. I know there's a lot of Chief fans out there. But yeah, we're looking at 120 odds right now.
So who
So,
do you want to win?
I'm always a fan of the underdog, but at the same time, I think it is pretty cool to do something that is historical.
Yeah.
And, I know a lot of people glaze Patrick Mahomes, and it's one of those things. The bigger you are, and the more that you do in a sport, you're just going to naturally have critics, right? It's
Yeah, for
like
sure.
whether you're talking about Taylor Swift or, Pat Mahomes' wife and her outfits or whatever it is. There's always like reasons that
It's
people
always.
try to find. Well, I'm just not going to like this guy just because. I think after watching the quarterback series on Netflix, which I'm a huge sports documentary fan. Documentaries are my favorite things to watch. I'm a big fan of basketball players and football players, but I did learn a lot about what quarterbacks have to endure. Very impressed with their IQ,
Yeah.
their ability to memorize and know and communicate and all of that. And I was very impressed with Mahomes.
Yeah.
And I think anyone going to the Super Bowl, just making it to the Super Bowl is, it's a dream come true.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but I don't lean heavily either way with a team. I'm kind of like that across the board. I just love sport so much.
Yeah.
So, but we are having a Super Bowl party here in the McCrae home. So
Yes.
it'll be really fun to hear who people are rooting for. But let's go
It's
ahead and
true.
turn that
That's
back to
true.
you, Ed. Who are you rooting for? Who do you want to win
The
despite all odds?
the Eagles.
Yeah,
I
of
don't want I
course.
don't want the Chiefs to win,
Hmm.
and I want the Eagles to win because they beat my Rams. They beat my Rams, and the Rams should be there, but I'm okay if the winner of the Super Bowl is the Eagles because that means that the Rams lost to the winner. So,
Okay.
that's my reasoning.
Okay.
But looking forward to it's always fun just watching the Super Bowl and I did hear today that they always do those Doritos commercials and the finalists
I
they
love the
they put yeah.
commercials.
Well, the Doritos one, uh, we had a buddy back in the day. His didn't win, but it was up there in the
It should
finalists.
have.
Should have. It was a great commercial. But anyways, the one that won this year is a couple of guys from our alum from Biola University. So I'm looking forward to watching that live on the television and eating some wings and nachos. So
So you say you want the Eagles to win, but come on. Who do you
what?
think who
Who
do
do
you
I
think
think's gonna
will
win?
win?
I don't
Yeah.
know. I have no idea. I really don't. It's hard to it's hard to bet against Mahomes and the Chiefs, right? Like they
Yeah.
just for whatever reason seem to know how to win and they pull it out. So, but I don't know. It's up in the air. So
If you had to do a percentage, what do you think? What are the odds of What's the likelihood of the Chiefs winning between 1 and 100%?
Oh, if I had, I mean, it's probably like a 75% chance. Just because they
That's
just
pretty high.
they know how
That
to
is
do it.
really high. That's almost like you just said that you wanted the Eagles to win. You're giving them a 25% chance of winning.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I want the Eagles, but it doesn't mean like just because I think the Chiefs have a greater chance to win.
Who do you
Doesn't
like
mean I
on the
want.
Eagles? Who's your
Who
you rooting
I
for?
really like their coach, to be honest, and I am a big fan of Saquon Barkley. He was on my fantasy team this year, so
okay. Did he do you well?
he did me well. Kind of rooting for that guy. So yep, there is the extent of my NFL knowledge, and yeah, so it's always fun.
That's not the extent of your
love the
NFL
Super Bowl.
knowledge, because let me tell you, it is like 1 and 2 hour conversations.
It is
and
not that much.
Usually Eddie and Isaiah gang up on me when I try to hop in there, but I got game.
You do got a little
I
bit
do,
of
because I
game.
listen to you guys and I love watching it, and I watch ESPN. Folks, when I'm doing laundry, I love to put on ESPN. I'm just going to say it. I love to put on ESPN when I'm cleaning the kitchen. I love listening to it.
Yeah.
I love sports so much.
Yep.
And it's so sad that I have never in my life gone to a professional football game. I have been wanting to go to one since I was in college.
We need to make that
Our
happen.
college didn't have a football team. So
we need to make that
it
happen.
is so sad that I bought you and Isaiah tickets to a football game for Christmas last year. Or 2 years ago, I think it was.
It was 2 years ago, but
and
yeah.
then last year I got you Kings tickets. And I'm like, why am I not buying myself a ticket? Because they're so expensive.
They are pricey.
So expensive.
That's why we've only gone to one in the last 20 years. So
yeah.
But we need to make that happen, Sal.
I
need to get out
know,
there and
because
get
I love the big crowds and the cheering, and I don't know. It's just I don't think I'll ever get sick of that.
Yeah.
It's so fun. So I'm excited. We're going to be having a party here. It'll be fun to root, but I really do hope the Eagles have a greater chance than 25%. I'm going to give them a bigger chance. I'm going to say they've got like a 40%.
Oh yeah,
chance.
Good for
I'm looking at 60-40.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good job.
So,
okay.
You heard it here.
You
folks.
heard it here.
You heard it here.
Sally says right here. Sally
Who
says.
knew I was a sports analyst?
Who
okay.
knew?
Who knew?
Who knew? ESPN / Sally says.
Move on over. I'm just waiting for when they have like an ultra running segment.
On ESPN?
Oh yeah, I will just tear that up.
What? Let's talk about that. What do you think that would look like on ESPN? Do you think
it wouldn't even make it out of the beta mode? They'd be like, how long is that race? You got anything shorter than 30 hours? Like, we can get behind that. No, I think that a sport will not do well unless it can be in an arena.
Indoors.
I'm just going to say it. I'm going to say it.
It's true.
Golf is great because it's a sport of patience. It is very technical, and you can watch it from so many different angles. It's very easy to cover.
Yeah, but remember I was telling you they have that new one where it is indoors. They have an arena now.
In the stadium. I want to go to one of those.
That's an interesting take on golf.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, this is why High Rocks is getting so big. I called it. It was, or you and I have talked about it. I didn't call it on either podcast, but Eddie and I have been talking about it actually for years. Because a couple of years ago, I got invited to the championships, like the world championships
it's called
or whatever.
Sally says off the record.
It is. This is off the record because
I
get invited to some big races that I have never done before. I'm not going to say what all of them are, but I'm like, you want me to come to do the world championships of this? I've never done your sport.
Yeah.
Like, it's just wild to me. But I do know how business works. I know how marketing works and all of that. And so obviously that is a piece of it. When High Rocks was coming into the scene just a couple years ago, I got invited to do it. And I was like, it's a cool concept. It really does encompass what I love. So the heavy lifting, the running. The thing is it's in an arena. You can watch it the entire time.
Yep.
And it's over in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And so something like that, I believe, is going to continue to gain popularity. The other thing about High Rocks and why it's so powerful is because it's something that you can actually grasp and train for, knowing that's what you'll be tested on. So unlike CrossFit, where athletes would arrive and they had no idea what even half of the things that they were going to be doing, what half of the events were going to be doing. And then it was like a 3-4 day event. I mean, that's that kind of wears you out after a while. You're like, am I going to sit again for the second, third day, all day long? And like, what event is this? And you see some of the fittest athletes in the world kind of like falling apart at like weird events that are like, why? I don't even understand. Or even the combo of the event. Like, why would you have them do that and completely decimate their biceps? And this is a really strong athlete, and then think that they're going to be good at the next event. It's just, I think that high rocks is something that you can wrap your mind around. It's understandable. It's something that you could train for in a local gym. Most all high rocks equipment, if you haven't seen it yet or you're starting to see it and pop up in your gyms, I know the new gym that you and I started going to, all the high rock stuff is there. And I think people need to pay attention to that. Pay attention to the fact that it doesn't matter if you could be a 10K road runner, you could be an ultra marathoner, and you can actually do high rocks.
Yep.
So it's an exciting time. But the thing is, going back to what your question was about, would ultra marathons ever be on ESPN? I think it needs to be a shorter trail race. I don't know how well ultra marathon would be covered, but I think a shorter, intense trail race that could be covered well, where someone could sit down and say, hey, let's watch this the same way that we do. And hey, let's sit down and watch an NBA game and NFL. Otherwise, you're not going to get the branding, the advertising, the marketing. And that's really what makes these things big. Like, it's the marketing and advertising that drives it. And
what if they did, like, you know how they have the monster trucks come to
oh my gosh,
the
I
stadium?
love those. Aren't those so fun?
And they bring in all the dirt and they make the hills and the track and stuff. What if they just left it and put up some flags and said, all right, the next thing we're going to do on this dirt is we're going to have some trail racing.
I think you and I, we've talked about that. I'd watch that, but I think there'd have to be like other things in it. Like there'd have to be like, I don't know. I think you'd have to have some type of, because there's a few people that I have spoken with, race directors, who were like, we need to come up with something that keeps people watching.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I know 10K isn't popular in high school. You don't really do that until you're in college and then later on. But do you know that race is one of the few races where it begins and it's like they start blasting the music? Why do they do that? They don't really like talk a lot about it for the first few miles, right? It's 6 miles on the track.
Yeah.
And even though these top athletes are, the guys are doing it like in 28 minutes and the girls are doing it in low 30s. Everyone in the stands is like, dude, I'm going to go get a Coke and go to the bathroom.
First 20 laps, you're like, all right.
And these are some of our fastest athletes in the world. I mean, it's beautiful. As a runner, obviously, I really do appreciate it and know that the training that goes into that is very intense. But they really don't like start announcing, talking about what's going on until like the last mile and a half,
you got
maybe
4 more laps. All right.
Yes.
Now we can watch.
So I think that right there is, if you're going to come to market with a new interest for, what would be a good program to put on ESPN, or what could we air, and you're looking at running, well, whenever we air the road marathons, for example. I mean, we only air a few of those on TV.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other stuff that has to be stuffed into those couple hours. So you're looking at interviews. They have to do a lot of pre-stuff in order to get people to keep on watching, because a lot of these things are contingent on the marketing and brands and sponsors. Like, people want to know that their stuff is going to be seen and that people aren't going to leave the broadcast because they just don't want to watch somebody run at mile 4 and 5 and 6. Like, what's going to keep these people staying there? Well, everything that they have to do before that race even happens. And this is like months in advance. They're traveling to Utah and they're doing the interviews and they're meeting with the family and they're covering their training. And it's like, these are the snippets that you're going to see during the training, right? Like, you're going to have interviews with former professional athletes that, they're going to give really interesting conversations and different viewpoints of the race. I mean, I think it takes a lot of work to keep people on top of that, because when does the marathon actually start racing? It's the last 10K.
Mm-hmm.
It's always, that last little bit. And so, I don't think this is like new news, but if you're going to sit and look at it from a business standpoint, which that is what all of it is, it all comes down to how much money is going to be driven into this thing. How much money can we make off this? How much advertisements and marketing, is going to be contributed to this? That's why things get chosen. And that's why baseball, basketball, and football will always kind of be at the top. It brings in the most money.
Yeah, that's kind of cool when you're thinking of, or when you're talking, I was thinking of how like Western states ends running the track and you have the big stadium, and that's just that's so fun for people that aren't following the whole race, but they get to experience something that's like so epic, and especially if it like this year and a couple of those guys that were actually racing that little stretch, which makes it exciting. I know how the race that McKenzie used to do at Mount Sac has now, the 3 miles has finished on the track. So there's a big stadium there. People are watching them finish, and it's just loud, and that makes it way more exciting rather than finishing where only 30 people that are close to the finish line can actually see what's happening.
Exactly.
Or I think of like the AC 100 where you like finished at the park, it's just like, it's very uneventful and kind of, it's not very, it's not very friendly in terms of spectating and stuff. So I like the track thing, but yeah, I knew ultra running was up a creek when I turned on ESPN2 and I saw, this huge program, this multi, hour. There's 2 hours of like cornhole. I was like, oh, these guys, these adult men are throwing this little beanbag into a wood.
Well, look at bowling.
That's crazy, dude.
Like, I love bowling. I know your parents were in a bowling league when you were a little kid.
So was I. What?
Yeah, and you know what? It's great for community. It's so fun, right? Like birthday parties, like it's such a fun sport. But to sit down and watch it on TV is beyond me.
Yeah.
But you can record the entire thing. And there's a lot of sports that are like this. And I think that when people get outraged when certain things are taken in and out of Olympics, or why is this being broadcast? It's like, because you can watch the whole thing, because there is, and obviously anyone knows, like business 101, if you're going to start a business, if you're going to come up with a product, you have to do market research first. You'd be a fool not to. So you first have to find out who your target audience is. You need to find out, is there a need, or is this a growing trend where I can get in now and it's going to do well? Is this growing in popularity? And it's like, if you don't know all that stuff in advance, then it's probably not going to do well. And so sometimes when people are like, I can't believe that bowling is on TV, I'm like, do you know the market? Do you know the numbers of how many people bowl?
Yeah.
And how many people are into this sport? Just because you might think it's boring, or it's just like, that's not as exciting as trail running. Yeah, I agree. I think trail running is way more exciting than bowling. But you got to look at the market. You got to look at what's there. And ultimately, these stations, they want to bring in the most money possible. And so right now, bowling's going to bring in way more money than trail running. And, my opinion does not matter. It's the facts that matter. And so I think there's space for it. I mean, I'm thinking back to when I was a little kid and I discovered the Ironman. I was in the late 80s, early 90s, and I was fascinated with this event where you swim in the ocean for a couple, is it 1.2 miles or 2.4 miles? I really apologize to our Ironman athletes. I need to look up every single distance. I think it's like 2 miles. The bike ride is over 100 miles, and then they do a marathon. You want to look up the stats for me, Ed? I want to say it properly. But as a kid, I watched that on TV. It was the longest race broadcasted at the time. What was most fascinating to me, though, was not the beginning, the swimming. It's knowing that they did that swimming, but it was always the run, and that's how you end the race. And I think what's telling in all of this is there is a direct connection to watching people overcome. There's something about intensity. There's something about watching someone work through a challenge that really pulls people in. And I think that Ironman did a great job of showcasing that. It wasn't always just the winners. And you think back to like the days of Mark Allen and some of all the Ironman greats. But I really think that trail running has those elements. It has these elements of overcoming, and sometimes it's multiple times, and watching what some of these athletes are able to overcome and the discomfort that they are enduring. is incredible. It's inspiring. I think that's why the rise of ultra running documentaries has become so popular. It's one of the best ways that we can showcase our sport.
Yep.
But we do it in bite-size pieces. I mean, a lot of these ultra running, it'll be like 100 or 200-mile documentary, and it's like 30 or 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And so think about that.
Mhm.
You know, if a high rocks event is 60 to 90 minutes, and a 100-mile race, you know, for some people is anywhere between 16 and 38 hours. You know, it's we want to what are we going to bring to market? What are we going to air on TV? So,
good point.
yeah, but here's the thing. Kind of like I was saying, what we're seeing for the marathon today, the Ironman would happen, but I believe I should do some research on this. I believe it would take them almost a month before it was then aired on TV. I mean, so much editing had to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, that's not a 2-hour race.
Right.
And so
by the way, it's 2.4-mile swim.
Okay, 2.4-mile swim.
112-mile bike.
112-mile
and then
bike.
a marathon.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's long.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at I think nowadays the guys are doing it in under 8 hours, the winners, which is incredible. Jeez. So 7-8 hours are the winners. Man, it might even be faster than that. I feel like every year they're just getting faster and faster, but that's a very long event. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, the event would take place, and then I believe they would air, I think it would took place in October, and then they would air it in November. And I think that is one option that we have. I think if I had to pick a couple events, I'd say do Western States and UTMB and do that. You know, maybe Western States is in June. And maybe we can watch it on, ESPN. How cool would that be in July awesome. or August? And then we do the same thing for UTMB. I mean, they're getting a lot better with covering these things. You know, the use of drone, and we're getting more and more incredible athletes that are choosing to cover it, which I think is so amazing. Mm-hmm. Strong runners that are running with GoPros to, you know, keep up with the front runners, maybe the first 3 or 4 miles of some of these races, and they're cutting in along the course to really capture the intensity of what's happening. I think it would be wonderful to watch. It's fascinating. I think the ultra running is still a very mysterious sport. Yeah. Partly due, in fact, that almost every single race on the planet is different from the next. Yeah. Outside of the distance, but man, no terrain is the exact same. And it's not like track. I can go race on a track in Germany and then race on one here in Huntington Beach, and it's still 400 meters around. So. Yeah.
That's a good point. So what I'm hearing is if we want to get on ESPN with a sport, we need to come up with something that is inside, indoors, and
or it's just well edited.
Well edited.
It needs to be there needs to be a plan in place. We need to see who would come in and be okay with funding this amount of editing.
I mean, I'm just thinking cornhole and spike ball. I mean, all these things. I mean, those are little games that you just make up in your backyard, and now they're big time. Yeah. So I'm going to start thinking about coming up with a new sport.
And if anyone has a lead with ESPN and they need someone, I'm your girl. Absolutely. That would be fun. I think sports casting. I always tell Isaiah that. I think he would be such a good sports analyst. The way he's able to store data.
Yeah, so
and just name. I mean, the way he can just fly through data and names and teams is. Yeah, it's incredible. That's a gift. I always try to tell him that's a gift that you can do that. Not everyone can just. Yeah. I remember when he was in elementary school and he would come home and just tell me the birthdays of all of his friends. Yeah. And I was like, that's really odd. That's awesome that you know that. Or we would go to the grocery store and be like, oh, this is Connor's favorite candy. And this is, oh yeah, Nathan loves this. This is his favorite cereal. And oh yeah, Joe's favorite color is green. Just like that. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of data to remember about your friends. Yeah. He's a thoughtful kid too. But I'm like, hey, let's put that into a career.
Yep. Yep, sports analyst would be a good one for that for sure.
Good talk, Ed.
Good talk. Good times, good talk, Sal. I like that. That's a good subject.
This episode is brought to you by Mudwater. Have you heard of this before? I've actually heard of this for a while, and I've been very curious to give it a try. And when they sent it to me, I noticed that there was a little recipe on the side to make a mud latte. Now, listeners, you know what a big coffee drinker I am. So, of course, I'm going to be a little skeptical, but I went ahead and I tried the mud latte. So, I mixed a tablespoon of the mud water powder with some hot water, some creamer, and shockingly, it was really good. I like this stuff. Now, this is essentially a coffee alternative. So, if you find yourself yawning and tired, let's say like at 3 p.m., but you don't want to drink an afternoon cup of coffee, or maybe you've just had too much coffee or coffee jitters, you might want to give mud water a try. It's filled with really good ingredients too. You got chai, cacao, lion's mane, chaga, reishi, turmeric, cinnamon. It's amazing, and it gets your energy fix without your heart going crazy, without that jittery feeling. So mud water is kind of like coffee's chill yoga-loving cousin who went on a spiritual retreat and came back more zen. But just kind of imagine being alert and calm at the same time while not having trouble falling asleep at night. So every single ingredient in mud water products are 100% USADA certified organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, vegan, and kosher. And there's also 0 sugar and no sweeteners added, which I think is pretty cool. And for our listeners, this is extra cool. You guys get a nice little discount. So if you head over to mudwater.com and grab your starter kit, for a limited time, our listeners get up to 43% off your entire order. Free shipping and a free rechargeable frother, which I used, and it's a good one. I might get rid of my other frother because this one's really good. But just use the code STRONG, and that's up to 43% off your order with code STRONG at mudwtr.com. After you purchase, they ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Stay energized and refreshed all year long with mud water, because life's too short for anything less than natural, delicious energy.
All right, let's move on to what do you want to talk about?
I want to dive into your half marathon.
Let's get
to
it.
This will kind of go into getting to the start line when you're not at peak fitness, when you are undertrained. I think a lot of people actually tuned in to hear this part of the podcast. So I do want to tackle it.
Sorry, it's taken us so long to get to what we were actually talking about.
Oh, gosh. We have a lot of people that are still, charging through their long run right now. And so we just get to hang out with them a little bit longer.
That's right. That's right.
And for those of you that are washing the dishes and making dinner, I mean, we're still in their ears.
We're hanging out. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was really funny, actually, before we dive into this.
Here we go.
I was on X the other day. No, it was in response to me posting about Maxwell's episode. And I was like, I just had this amazing 2-hour conversation with Maxwell Joliffe, and I'm super excited to share it with you. And this guy responds, he's like, 2 hours? Who wants to listen to 2 hours of a podcast? I'm 30 minutes tops. And I started laughing because I was like, well, I don't know, but over 2 million people download our podcast, and most of them are up to about 2 hours. But then I thought about it too. I was like, most top podcasts are about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and it's a new world of podcasting. It's not what it used to be.
Yeah. I think someone needs to teach him about the 2 times speed function.
Oh my gosh,
that'll crank it out a little faster too for him.
Absolutely. I'd say most podcasts I listen to, I'm like at 1.4 to 1.6.
Yeah,
2 times is too fast. I don't feel like I can actually let things
digest.
Well, I guess it depends on what I'm listening to.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So if it's news or education type stuff, like I kind of really want to hear the conversation, and and so I'll slow, I don't slow it down, but beyond, I'm not like 0.8.
Do you ever wish that we had that like in real life, where you can be like, give this person 2 times speed. Like, hurry up. Like, keep going. I want to get the information. That's it.
I think every person with ADHD would say, yes, I understand that. I think that's one of the symptoms of ADHD.
Speed it up.
We already know what you're talking about. We need you to get to the point of the conversation because you're losing me. But no, that is so funny that you say that because, I think it's the same thing with when I look at my computer, there's so many times where I go and just with my hand, I'll just like tackle my screen and try to like enlarge it. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like,
like with your phone.
I want everything to function the way that that it does on my phone. Yeah.
Yep.
But no, that would be funny. I think there was a movie about that. Was it Click with Adam Sandler?
Really? Is that what it was about?
Yeah, and I think it's actually a really beautiful life lesson that so often we do want things to just be over. I think of being in our new baby years when we were new parents and when we were just exhausted at 1 a.m. and you're just like, I cannot wait till our kids start sleeping through the night. And then they start sleeping through the night and you're like, I cannot wait till they can go to the bathroom by themselves. And I cannot wait till they go to preschool so I can at least have like 2 hours to myself to like take a shower and do the grocery shop, right? And it's very easy to live in this, I can't wait till this is over. When all along there's actually a lot of joy and blessings, not only in the struggle, but just ones that we're not paying attention to.
Yeah.
It is tiring and exhausting getting up with a baby that's crying. But once you feed that baby and you're rocking it back to sleep and you're just staring into their sweet, tiny little face and man, those moments are so fleeting and they're so precious. And those moments are forever branded in my mind. And I would do anything to have a moment like that back.
Totally.
It's but yeah, so as much as like, yes, sometimes I wish I could be in a conversation with someone and be like, hey, can we get to the point or at least like, can you talk a little faster? Life is not meant to be lived that way. So, but let's jump in, Eddie, to you ran that Surf City Half Marathon this past weekend.
Yeah.
We saw hundreds and hundreds of people in the True Strong community out there.
Yep.
One of the things that I do love about the Surf City course for anyone that's maybe looking to do a great half or full marathon is that as a spectator, so you can tell this to your family, you can go almost everywhere to cheer and crew. And so that's what I did. I got in about 7 miles and it was so fun to very easily run to different spots because you do a few out and backs. You do a few like run out 3 miles, turn around, come back, make a ride on the street, run out 3 miles, come back. And so because of that, you are always around a lot of people. And as spectators, you're able to see your loved ones multiple times. So every time you run that, I see you a minimum of 4 times, which is so cool. In a half marathon, some people go to these races and they just sit at this finish line. They just want to see them finish.
Yeah, I was thinking about the marathon even more so because they're going up and then they're going back the path and they're going up the path and back. So you can see them a whole bunch.
You see them at
marathon.
Minimum of 8 times with very, easily. And they don't shut down the bike path. And so if you have an electric bike,
you can cruise right along
all over that course. And it's pretty cool. I think that, we know Surf City as being a very friendly local race. Although this year, I think there was it 30,000 people that showed up or
I don't know. 15-ish.
15 in total, all the races. There's total, 4 races. We got some shorter ones, some shorter fast
5K,
ones.
Mile,
a 5K, a mile, a half marathon, and a marathon.
Yeah.
But and then they have a great post party.
Yeah.
Huge stage and music. They got a beer garden. They always give out great food.
The best part about the course, it's pretty much lined the ocean the whole time.
Right.
Right. Like that's you can't beat that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you go away from that you go off Sea Point, it's just beautifully lined palm trees.
Nice trees, yeah.
Very wide, smooth, well-groomed street. I always appreciate that about Sea Point. That street is always well paved. I always feel like it's always brand new paved. And it's wide and it's I think because the golf course is just right over there. So it's just a really nice street and you see people on both sides. So I feel like the energy at Surf City is very high.
Yeah, it is. is.
I stood I was on the island on PCH. I was in the middle of the street pretty much the entire race, and it was so cool to witness countless runners waving at each other. One's at mile 7 and the other one's at mile, 9, and they're waving at each other like, "Hey, let's go." And I thought there's something in that is very, very encouraging. So I thought that was cool. It was unfortunate though, because I was so happy. I was getting some film of you and I was high-fiving you. I got to see all those times. And then right before, I want to say like 5 or 6 minutes before I knew you were going to arrive, you ran with your phone. I use our family uses Life 360 app. And so I was always watching your little icon, and so I knew when you were getting closer to me. And while I was waiting, I was cheering, giving a lot of high fives and selfies. And this girl that I was talking to, she was like, "Hey, that girl down there just fell. Can you go help her?" And it was actually pretty scary. It took a little while, but before we had like a race official help. I think maybe she was dehydrated or low blood sugar and maybe didn't know it. Her face was really pale and she was throwing up, and but it was incredible to be so many runners that literally gave up their race to help her. And that stood there for about, I think I stayed there for 25, 30 minutes because I didn't get to see you finish.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of a scary situation for a few minutes there. And lifeguards came, and then finally the emergency shuttle came out. So yeah, it's a good community. I think just seeing all the people that came around that precious girl. I mean, she was young. It was her first time doing the half marathon. And as her friend said that was there, she was well trained. She hit that 11-mile long run mark just, a couple weeks ago. But yeah, that was, and I remember you coming at me. You were running at me, and I have this look on my face, and you're like, "What's going on?"
Because I saw her on the ground, and so I stopped. I walked up to you, and you're like, "Oh yeah, she's not doing good." And there was already, like you said, a couple.
Yeah, there was a physician,
2 or 3
stopped.
people, and so you're just like, "I keep going.
Yeah,
that should be fine." But yeah, on her face, you can tell she was not doing well. But,
yeah.
But
we had a lot of really good help. I think at one point, right before I left, there was, I think, 6 emergency responders all around her.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that was awesome to witness. Just all the help that she immediately had. So, but it was a beautiful day out there, and I just want to take a moment to personally thank everyone that waved and high-fived and that allowed me to run alongside you for a couple steps. And we got a lot of video and selfies, and it was fun seeing you guys repost that, and a lot of you exchanged some incredibly kind words. So know that that just really warms my heart. Eddie, you went into this race. It's on the calendar every year. I think there's a lot of listeners that have races they do every year, whether it's like a turkey trot or a Santa run, or it's just a local 10K that it really doesn't matter if they've trained for it or not. They're doing it because it's a fun community event. They see friends. I know the past few years you've always run with our buddy Jason Humes, and you guys ran. I know we have some video of it. Both you guys were in your yellow Choose Strong hats together for the first few miles, and I know that you guys have shared that race and the love for that race for many years. And that's kind of what I see at Surf City. It's just, it really is a great reunion of the running communities all over Southern California, from San Diego to LA. It is just a fun party. I mean, in one way, it's kind of like kicking off the year of racing. So I think it is pretty common that we actually do get a lot of runners that are in peak fitness at Surf City because the year has just begun. We have a lot of athletes that are just coming out of, their off season. They're building fitness. Some people will use the Surf City Marathon or half marathon, I should say, and I think that's why it's the biggest race of the 4 races that they have, as their tune-up for the LA Marathon.
Yep.
So it's kind of good just to get a gauge. Okay, let's test some fitness a little bit. Let's see what I need to work on. I know that that's what you did last year. You were really fit when you ran the half marathon last year. You got a great time, and then you went and you did the full marathon.
Yep.
So I think, that was really your focus signing up for it this year, is like, this is what I do every year. Like, I put it on the calendar no matter what.
Yeah.
Just share with us a little bit what your approach was. And we've shared a few times. We had a lot of unknowns happen at the end of last year. We moved, and so that busyness didn't allow you to have the training that you wanted. But just give us a rundown with what you had going into that race.
Yeah, like you said, we were pretty busy, and I didn't train like I probably should have. But again, like you said, I just put that on the calendar to know that, hey, on that day, I'm going to exercise for 2 hours, and regardless of kind of how I'm feeling or how fit I am. So that was kind of the goal this year of, because I did not get in the miles that I wanted to. And so I'm like, hey, I'm going to get out there and just move for a couple hours. And that's what I did. So went in thinking that that's all I was going to do. And so I obviously tried to take it easy and didn't exert myself too much, so I wouldn't have a horrid week of tired muscles and injuries this week. So yeah, that was what I did.
Do you feel like, because you've done that race now, I think it's like 6 or 7 times, just that one in particularly, did that give you a little bit of confidence? Like, did you feel like, I know the course, I know how it goes. I think I don't know how many half marathons you've done, in like 15 half marathons. Is that part of why you felt like, hey, the longest I've run is 6 miles in the last couple months, but I'm going to be okay?
Yeah, for sure. That was my 7th time doing it, at least 7. So, yeah, obviously I know, I've done the half marathon distance a bunch, so I'm familiar with that, the course. So I knew what to expect. So, and like you said, I did 6 miles a couple times leading up to it. And obviously doing the marathon last year, I know my body can go 26 miles. So I'm like, okay, I can go 13 slow.
Mhm.
So, that's what I did. I just, and you helped me with a little strategy, which was nice because,
Let's talk about that strategy. What was I guess it started probably like the night before.
yeah,
I think it was like Thursday or Friday. Um, I know that your back has not 100% been feeling great.
yeah,
And I feel like, because this is just a routine race for you, it doesn't have a lot of weight
yeah.
as far as, do or die. Like, I put my whole heart into this.
Hmm.
And so I said something like, hey, like, you don't have to do this race on Sunday.
Hmm.
And wholeheartedly, it was just, I didn't want you hurting.
Yeah,
Like, I really do care about making sure that, we get healed up, get that back healed up. But I know sometimes I probably worry a little bit too much. And so that's kind of like where our conversation started, where, your fitness over the last couple months has actually been pretty consistent. So
yeah.
it may not always be like running all the time, but you have been consistently going to the gym almost every single day. And if you're not at the gym, you're getting up and going for a walk and lifting in the garage. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how our conversation pivoted, was, you probably don't have the run fitness that you're used to, which you're capable of, but you have been increasing fitness overall.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that seasoned athletes, they get to benefit from.
Hmm.
So if you are consistently training year in and year out, and you haven't had any moments where you've had to take 6 months or more off, you do get to enjoy the leaning into the experience, the knowledge, just mentally being able to completely encapsulate like what it is that you're going to be doing. Your mind's so powerful in that. So that course like the back of your hand.
Yeah.
And that is very helpful.
Yep.
Because whether you know it or you're not, your brain is really good at naturally breaking things down in order to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
So we always talk about like, oh, break the race down into thirds. It's like, well, that's actually kind of something that we naturally do when in order to help us achieve something. I remember when the kids were really little and they'd say, Mommy, how many more bites do I have to take before I can leave the table? Do you remember that?
Uh-huh.
And they needed to know the number. So they didn't want to eat their broccoli, but if I gave them a number, they're like, I can do that number.
Yeah.
You know, because that was the number they needed to achieve. And I think that with racing, and that's kind of the strategy that you and I took. So I was very numbers driven. So we looked up how many aid stations there were, and I was like, I think there's 9.
Yeah.
So there's 9 aid stations, and there's just a little mind game that you guys can use.
Game.
Yeah. So we knew there was 9 aid stations, but then we had a little bit more fun and kind of then dialed those down. So they were serving Gatorade at not all of them, but like some of them, and then it was like, okay, which ones have the gels? When you study a race website and you study the course, make sure that you study exactly where the aid stations are. Make sure you know exactly where specific fuel is. So even ultras are like this. Like the further you go in the race, they're going to start flipping burgers at mile 60.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to start serving pancakes at mile 82. They're not doing that at mile 8.
No.
Right? And so I think for you, Ed, we said, all right, there's 9 there. And so I don't know if you kind of want to kind of break down what our strategy was.
Yeah. So obviously with limited training and limited runs of, 5 and 6 miles here and there, I knew that I couldn't go at the pace that I would want. And so knowing that, I said, what do you think would be a good strategy, knowing that I'm going to go whatever pace I wanted to go? And you said, yeah, there's 9 water stations, and so just take each of those and walk through them. Mm-hmm. So as soon as I saw one,
and we did it as I said, as soon as you see it.
Yeah. So
that's different from, because sometimes I'll say to people, as soon as you grab your water, walk.
Yeah.
But our strategy is a little bit different. It's as soon as you see it, I want you to walk.
Yeah. I didn't necessarily do that.
I know you wouldn't do it.
That was what you wanted and what we talked about. But so yeah, the strategy was, get into the race untrained, didn't want to get hurt, so I knew I had to take it easy. So the goal and the strategy was to, every time I would see one of the 9 water stations, that I would take a break and walk that whole stretch of that water station. So what I did is I would grab the water, then I began to walk. Mm-hmm. And then once I was done with the water and the water station was done, then I would start running again. So I did that. I didn't do it 9 times because I did not do it the first couple, because I was running with Jason the first 3 miles.
And his pride got in the way. And he was like, I can't let Jason know that I'm going to walk.
No, I told him the strategy.
I know.
And I just said, you know what? Like that first one came up kind of quick. I'm like, I'm not walking right here. Like, come on, man. I'm not that like out of shape.
Right.
So
pride comes before the fall.
So I think the first 2 or so, I did not, in fact, I didn't even get water. I just, blew right by him. But,
that
baddie. Once the third one, I think, is when, or maybe the 4th, that's when I started to implement the Sally McRae strategy of getting me to the finish line uninjured, basically. Mm-hmm. So, which was really cool. I really actually enjoyed. I've never really done that. So I actually enjoyed it because we were talking how the strategy lends itself to something you can look forward to. So every time I knew, like, okay, I walk through that water station just for 30 seconds, and then I began to run again, I knew, like, in my head, I guess not the first few, it wasn't a big deal, but like towards the end, I knew, like, okay, cool. Like I get to walk a little bit. And so I would, run and then look forward to that number 7, water station. And then I would know I get to walk. And so that did mentally like help. I wasn't like, again, exerting myself, pushing myself, but it was that little extra, like, I am going to walk up here and gave my body a little break. So, so I actually really enjoyed the strategy of that. And, Yeah, and I didn't get injured, and I obviously didn't get the time that I would love, but it was the time that I knew that I was gonna get, basically going in. Like, I've done these so many times now where I know, like, based on how, like, I've trained, I know what I'm gonna get, like, time-wise, like, I already know. And I got exactly pretty much what I would've thought I would've gotten, so, yeah, so it was a cool little strategy to implement when you're not training necessarily like you'd like, but stepping up to a race.
The psychology of numbers is something good to study. Whenever you use numbers in order, it's a great way to engage. I don't want to say distract, but it's a great way to engage with what you're doing without having so much focus on maybe what you're feeling.
Yeah.
And so this is something that I use that when I race, because I don't want this to be interpreted as, like, we're always looking for, like, the soft side. Like,
Yeah.
what can I do to
Cheat codes and
well, it isn't like, well, we don't wanna train ourselves to be just like, how can I always be comfortable? That shouldn't what we want. That's not what we want to do.
Mhm.
These tools are meant to teach your brain that no matter the circumstance, I'm gonna find a way to finish.
Yeah.
And so that's really the way that we approach these. So you use these tools when you know that you have obstacles and challenges ahead of you.
Mhm.
Um, don't sell yourself short. Don't back down from giving your best. Be okay with being uncomfortable and kind of stepping into that discomfort zone. In this situation, I knew, really being up close as Eddie's wife, that he was walking to the start line already uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And that's why we formulated this strategy. Now, we talked about this a lot last year, Eddie. There are people who live their lives in chronic pain, and
Mhm.
chronic back pain is actually, unfortunately, very common. Um, I think it's 60% of all people at some point will experience back pain
Mm.
in their life, which is a very high number.
Yeah.
And so when I used to teach this running biomechanics class, and I remember one of the runners that I had was actually a pretty fast,
Mhm.
like a 2:40 marathoner, but she ran with an aroma in her foot,
Mm.
and not a lot of things she could do about it. And so it was really interesting, the conversations that we would have, and different things that we could do. And I remember her writing me a couple months later after she had taken my class, and she had PR'd. And this woman was in her late 30s, but it was just so fascinating to me because every time she went to a start line, she knew that she would, have discomfort. And so um to be able to overcome that because you put tools in place beforehand is something, I think we could do better at incorporating into our training. We really do get so caught up in just the workouts in our training
Yeah.
when we do need to practice uh, using mental tools in our long runs.
Mhm.
And so one of the ways that you can easily do that, so if you're like, how am I going to put myself in those situations, is, do a long run with like 3 layers. Go out and wear a t-shirt, a long sleeve, and a sweatshirt, and see what happens on a warm day when you have to start working through that.
Mhm.
Be okay with getting on a treadmill and not having a phone, no TV, like nothing, and just let yourself be in your head. That's hard.
Yeah.
I think we are very used to being stimulated and to having things to distract us from how we're feeling. And so more and more what we're seeing is people are coming to these start lines, and let's say that halfway through the AirPods die, and they're used to having that music, or they're used to having that stimulation, and they've separated from their pace group. It's a little bit warmer out than they thought it was going to be, and all these things that they've never experienced, that they planned for, it starts to fall apart, and
Yeah.
and then the whole thing feels way heavier than it is. So even a trained athlete can be so deeply affected by external factors that are no longer making them feel comfortable. It's now
Mhm.
they're totally uncomfortable. And if you've never worked through those things, or if you're routinely looking for comfort, or rarely set out of your comfort zone, I mean, don't beat yourself up, but it does make sense that you are going to slow down significantly or fall apart or DNF. When you look back on your training and just your everyday life, if it's filled with only staying comfortable all the time, and we know better than anyone, what are the stories and excuses that we're telling ourselves not to be consistent, not to show up for ourselves, not to put the work in. And it's only through looking back and evaluating how we routinely deal with things that don't go our way, or just our training as a whole, it's only then that we can grow and that we can get better. So I think in your situation, Eddie, it is really specific. The strategy was specific because it had to do with your starting point.
Yeah.
And I think that if you had showed up with like running fitness and you didn't have the back ailments that you have,
Yeah.
I would have given you a different running strategy.
Yeah.
I would have been more focused on, hey, stay with the 2-hour pace group.
Yep.
At mile 9, try to move ahead of the 2-hour pace group. Try to do the last 3 miles fast. Like, we would have been focusing more on pace strategy, which again, we're focusing on numbers, right? Like, focusing on numbers is very powerful. It's a great tool. But that isn't only for the speedsters.
Mm-hmm.
You can use numbers as a way to help you overcome the obstacles. So in this case, it was the number of aid stations.
Yeah, I was thinking just exactly that, because I don't think I told you, but yes, there's 9 aid stations or water stations that was in our strategy to walk those. And I also was thinking of numbers because I broke it up in my head. I'm like, okay, 4, 4, 3, and 2. So I did the first 4. I'm going to feel pretty good. The second 4, let's just get through those. And then I only got a 3 miler. All right, let's just do those. And then I know I can do 2 miles. So I broke it up like that way too, knowing that each time was going to get a little, besides the 4 back to back, I knew it was going to get easier because there's less mileage, right? Mm-hmm. So I knew that was going to be something that can help me too, that, okay, if it did start hurting where, hey, I only got a 3 mile block here, I can get 3. And then after that, I only have 2 more miles. And that, as you know, there's always so many people around. It's just kind of like easy to like not focus because you're just like, in front of so many people that are cheering and stuff. And then I had there's a lot of numbers, man, because there was like, we also did 3 gels, and I did them at the 3, 6, and 9, right? Like, so those were also like very numbers, like the strategy of a lot of numbers, but I just thought of that. But why did you have me take a gel at 3, 6, and 9? Mm-hmm. What was the point of those? Mm-hmm. That mileage, I guess.
Yeah. So I knew we had already planned the night before that we were going to go through Starbucks and get the oatmeal.
Yeah.
Because it was an early morning. We were coming from a little bit further, and race morning typically is the traffic. Sometimes it's like not a big deal. Other times it's a nightmare. Yeah. And so I thought, let's just get up and get you going. We'll go through Starbucks and get your coffee and your oatmeal. And so I started like calculating all your calories in at that point, what the water you're drinking. And then I dropped you off 10 minutes before the race started.
Yeah.
So I knew that you were topped off at that point.
Okay.
I knew that you would feel the best. Again, this is like customized, like this is like, 'cause I know you.
Yeah.
I knew that you would do the first 3 miles in less than 30 minutes, which you did. Mm-hmm. And that's the best time. So typically with gels, you want to take one every 30 to 45 minutes. And so that's what that reflects.
Okay.
So I knew that you were topped off with the oatmeal, the coffee, you had a little bit of banana, like you had some good calories to start the race. And then 30 minutes later, you were then able to top it off again with 100 calories. From miles 3 to 6, we're looking at like between 30 and 45 minutes. I knew that you would, that's a good cushion of time where let's get the next 100 in. Most athletes, when they're, not most athletes, I'd say that a lot of times, especially for new half marathoners, they will, they're actually pretty good about aid stations. Not always great understanding the purpose of gels, or even like the science behind them. And so they see it and they're like, okay, like, why do I need that?
Why am I
like,
getting offered
why am I getting
bar?
that? Yeah. And a lot of people will say, oh, man, the last 3 miles, my legs hurt so bad, and I don't know why, and it's like, well, a lot of times you're just like, you're completely depleted of glycogen, and
Yeah.
so, that's a big part of what you're feeling, and, it is hard the further you go to be ahead of calories. Everyone finishes depleted.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of our listeners do this, but if you were to go home right after running a half marathon and get on the scale, you're gonna be lighter. You're gonna be dehydrated, you're calorie deficient, and it has nothing to it doesn't matter how fast you ran, like, it's 13 miles is far. It's you're putting some intensity into your body, and it needs fuel to keep it going. So, I believe miles 369 in a half marathon, it's consistent, steady fuel. And taking the last 2 miles or I'm sorry, the last 4 miles before the finish line. I mean, you probably could have taken one again at 11, honestly, to give you like a big punch. But I do know that you were drinking Gatorade too. And so that was giving you additional calories and carbs. I don't know how watered down that stuff was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a good protocol. The other way that you can do it is if you have your morning routine before a race pretty well oiled, then you probably are up an hour and a half to 2 hours before that race starts. And so, as soon as you have that first meal, that's when you start that's when you actually should be counting your nutrition timing in increments. And I personally like to time it every 20 to 30 minutes. I burn big calories. Like I have a lot of muscle mass, and so I know that I always need a little bit more calories than maybe my fellow competitive female endurance runners. Like
Yeah.
I eat a lot, so um, I think that's something you have to pay attention to is just, if you have a lot of muscle mass or if you have a smaller frame or how well your stomach does on certain foods. You have to pay attention to all of that because there's strategy in that. And if you have an iron stomach or a weak stomach. So one strategy is to go over the top on calories. So some people will do like an 800 calorie bomb before they get to the race. And they actually say, yeah, the first mile, I feel a little, but the thing is they then stay on top of the calories throughout the race and they are so strong all the way through. And this is why practicing your nutrition in long run is so important because you can practice all the different strategies. So it starts at night. So what did you have for dinner? And then when you get up in the morning, how close to breakfast did you then start your run? How many calories did you have? So I've always played around with it where I think last year when you ran it, I told you needed to take in a gel 15 minutes before the race started.
Yeah.
And that was because you actually ate a lot further back from when the race started. You had more time in the morning.
Yeah.
So all these little things actually matter. The details matter to your success. Your preparation is monumental. And I think that we need to pay attention to those moments when we're like, whatever, it's just a half marathon. I've done this all the time. And, it's not that big a deal. And I hear a lot of runners say too, I'm not even that fast. I'm like backup packer. And it's like, it doesn't matter where you think you're going to finish. Know that you can always finish better, faster if you just prepare. If you just pay attention, if you just have a strategy. It's crazy the things that you implement. I mean, I used to study courses and figure out how the courses would bend and wind because I knew that I could always cut corners. Like if not cutting off the course, but
I'm like, wait,
but
what? No.
but like if you're on a course that kind of winds, if you
can
don't
hug the
you hug. That's the better way of saying it. If you can hug the turns, or you can cut across the turn. And I'm talking more particularly trail.
Yep.
But if you're like on a windy course that's like a dirt road forever, like I think of fire roads that climb up mountains. I've been on a lot of courses that are like that. And I actually learned this from a fellow competitor. It's like, pay attention to how much you're running extra because you're just sticking to one side of the trail. After a while, and this is why there's always discrepancy in watches.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what was the person marking the course originally? What line did they choose when they were going up that fire road?
Yeah.
Did they stay on the very outside of the trail so that they could overlook the ridge and look at the view? Or did they hug the mountain? Well, if you get all mathematical and you look at that, it was like, wow, the person who hugs the curve and the person who stays on the outside because they want a pretty view of the ridge, well, the person that's staying on the ridge, they ran 112 meters further. And so I think that, you can even do this in the road. Pay attention. Pay attention to how drink stations start to crowd. I mean, that's a huge race strategy too.
Yep.
It's sometimes it's way smarter to run straight. And this is really if you're really trying to get a personal best.
Yeah.
Run straight through the aid station, stay in the middle, don't go to the outsides, run straight through the middle. And then as you get towards the last couple people that are giving out cups, point to one, look at them in the face and say, I'm taking your water.
Yeah.
Can I have that one? I got you. Thank you so much. And grab that and keep going. You've probably just saved yourself 20 seconds of trying to dodge other runners, of being slowed down, right? Of getting into like the big group and fighting for a cup. Now add that into 9 aid stations. Now, does that have anything to do with being super fast? Or, I mean, you could be doing a 4-hour half marathon and maybe you really want to do a 3:45 half marathon. Those are the kind of things that it's free time given back to you. So, and I think this goes into those of you that are listening, that are wondering about going into your next race undertrained or not feeling your best. This is what you need to pay attention to. Look at all of the factors that make you successfully cross the finish line. So you're checking the weather. You're making sure that you have your nutrition plan dialed in. You know exactly when you are going to take in a gel, when you're going to take in a salt tab. You know where the aid stations are on the course. You know what every aid station is offering you, and you know whether or not you're going to take that in. I mean, I've talked to athletes sometimes and like, oh my gosh, the gels they're giving were so gross. I'm like, you should have known that. They're the title sponsor of the race.
Yeah.
Like every running short now has pockets. There's no excuse for that.
Yeah.
There's no excuse. You can't blame a race for not having the gels you liked. You can't blame a race for not having the liquid calories that you like. There are race belts and race packs and opportunities for you to bring exactly what you need in order to be successful. And I think that the numbers strategy is the second thing. So if you are showing up and you don't feel as prepared as you want to be, come up with a strategy that's going to keep you mentally strong. So in Eddie's situation, I wanted to give him so many variables that he actually had work to do within every mile. So he would hit mile 3. He's like, oh, this is the mile that I have to eat a gel. So he's sitting there eating his gel and he's like, oh, there's the water station. Okay, this is where I got to walk. And like, okay, now I'm walking. And like, oh, in 2 miles, I now have to like get another gel. And oh, there's another 8. It's like this, it's keeping him engaged with what he's doing, which ultimately is keeping you moving along.
Yep.
The third thing that I do want to highlight, Eddie, is overall fitness. So, originally when we were talking about the Sally Says question that you batted at me, the truth is a lot of us are going to get to a start line and we might say to ourselves, man, I wish I would have had more time to train, or I wish I wouldn't have hadn't gotten sick. I wish I didn't have, battled that Achilles injury. I wish that my knees felt better. It's very easy to go into a race and just completely decimate our minds and put ourselves down and just set ourselves up for a terrible day when all along we actually did originally want to have a good and strong day out there. So this is very common, and I want you to remember this. Every opportunity that you have to learn something and grow is a great opportunity. Not every opportunity that you have is going to be the time where you set a personal best, where you just, you hit it out of the park and that you feel amazing. But I will go as far as to say that it is worth it to at least try and see what comes of it than to just not try at all and say, I didn't have like that great a training. All of that comes down to the goals, though. See, what I've done there is I've just reformulated the goals. Let's say that originally you were just so bent on running a half marathon personal best, and you actually started your training plan and you were strong and you were doing well. And then 2 weeks of illness just took you out. And unfortunately, it was like a couple weeks before the race day. This is where you actually have the opportunity to be in control of the situation. And the way you do that is you sit down with a journal, you sit down with yourself, and you say, okay, I'm going to formulate new goals that match where I am right now. You don't beat yourself up, but you tell yourself, yeah, I'm not going to be able to hit that PB, but what can I do? Because I already paid for this registration. I already have a hotel room. I'm supposed to be, have my family or friends come out there too. I was really looking forward to doing this race. And instead of just like throwing it down the toilet that is not worthy anymore, it is worthy. Give it new life, give it new goals, and use it as an opportunity to grow. Eddie, I forgot to tell you this. After you crossed the finish line, I told you I was behind you. I didn't get to see you finish because I was tending to that girl. The way the course goes, the marathon runners start about an hour and 15 minutes ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you guys hit mile 7, they're like at mile 16 or, something like that. As I was running back, so most of the race is over. As I was running back, there is a woman with one of those push carts for her leg. You see people when they have a lower leg injury, particularly fractures. They might have like a boot on, and then there's that little, what are those called? It's like a scooter.
Yeah, you put your knee on the
pad. It's like a medical scooter,
Mhm.
and you can rest your knee on it. There was a woman doing a half marathon with that.
Oh, wow.
And, she was older, and she had a friend that was like speed walking next to her. And they were on the other side of the street. I almost went up to her and interviewed her. I mean, I had my camera out, and I was like, man, I'd love to put this on the podcast because that's incredible.
Yeah, geez.
If I had a boot and, obviously, like, if I wasn't racing for a personal best or, I'd probably be like, I'm going to wait till this heals.
Yeah,
I'm going to wait
sit
till
this one out.
until I don't have a scooter anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm going to revisit this. But it's kind of just, it really is playing into this point is like, well, what can I do? What can I experience? I don't know if she made the cutoff or not.
Mm-hmm.
She was on C point. You had already finished.
Coming down, C point?
Coming down. She was about to turn back on to PCH. So
that's like
is
mile 5 or 6.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
So you finished like,
jeez.
2 hours, a little over 2 hours was your finish time. And I think their cutoff time is 4.5 hours, I believe, which is really generous. That's a great cutoff time. But man, I had so much respect for her because I was like, she's now going to go downhill.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's that little, that you guys have little tiny climbs in there, I think a couple times. But I thought that is so cool.
That is.
She's like, you know what? I have the bib. I paid.
Yeah.
Definitely did not turn out the way that I wanted it to, with my little scooter here and my leg in a boot. But there is something to be had here. And I thought one of the coolest parts in all of it was she was just hanging out with her friend.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's a story they're going to talk about forever.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Hey, Jan, remember when you did that half marathon with your boot scooter? I just thought, let's have more of that.
Yeah.
On the flip side, there's messaging that's like win-win-win. It's 120% or nothing at all. And, I get that. I think that if we can set really big pie in the sky dreams and goals for our life and be okay with pursuing them for the rest of our life, we will be able to accomplish far more than had we set mediocre goals or goals that didn't even make sense. I think sometimes we set goals for ourselves and we completely throw patience and perseverance out the window. It's like, did you not think about the fact that you'd probably need like some patience building up into that to achieve that? I mean, we want things so quickly. We want things to go our way the first time. We want to achieve it the first time. We want to be at top peak performance within a couple months. And it's like some of the best things are set that goal super high and work at it with all your heart. And know that if that is the goal, that all these little things along the way, these little challenges, these setbacks, the being in a boot and with your foot scooter in a race, that's just a little part of it. Because I'll tell you what a strong woman.
Yeah.
There's just no doubt in her mind. We're still doing this. That's the friends I want to surround myself with. Like, yeah, I'm a little beat up and a little broken, a little challenged at the moment, but I'm still going to go get this thing done. Yes, more of that. And I think that in this case of arriving at a race where you do feel undertrained, where you don't think that it's possible to finish or hit that time that you wanted, it all actually starts with you before you even get to the start line. You need to replan those goals. You need to redefine those goals. And then you need to consider your plans and what steps you're going to take and then execute it. And stick to that. And I think you did that. You did a great job of that, Eddie. We talked about numbers, the aid stations, the gels, the number of gels you'd be taking, and you crossed the finish line. And every time I saw you, you looked great. You're cruising. You just kind of like locked in and you cruised and you got it done.
Yeah. Well, thanks. But I don't know about looking great, but
babe, you always look great.
Okay.
Yeah, you're always looking good. Let me tell you.
Okay.
Let me tell you. You got some strong quads. Quads look pretty good in those shorts. I'll tell you that.
They're very white. I'll tell you that. Winter body.
Well, I'm proud of you, and I know there's a lot of people out on the course that were cheering for you too. A few people asked me where you were,
to see them.
Shout out to Ramon. I teased him. He's like, "Where's Eddie?" I go, "I think you passed, gapped, and buried him because he's behind you right now." But that was really fun. So, thank you to everyone that was out there and just for cheering and being there. And it was great to meet so many of you. Eddie, why don't you go ahead and bring it home?
Bring it home.
Bring it home.
I just want to thank everybody for listening to us. And we know that a lot of you right now are training hard. You are getting after it. And we just want to encourage you to keep doing that. And Sally, finish for me. Yeah. What do you got next?
Are you struggling, babe?
No, I just want you to finish because I did it last time.
Yeah, you did.
I want you to finish.
You did a great job. No, as always, we love you. We are cheering for you.
Yes,
and we want to encourage you to keep choosing strong in all you do.